In this video lecture, we will go through amorphous and crystalline solids now, right? And now, by now we know that from previous video lecture that solids are characterized by their high rigidity, incompressibility and mechanical strength, right? And all these properties of solids is due to their particles, right, which are closely packed, right, and the high cohesive forces that acts between the particles of solid, right? So we say that solids, let's write it over here, solids are rigid, right, incompressible, right, and they have mechanical strength, right? Now let's understand what we mean by each of these points. When we say rigid, that means if you apply force, external force on solid, they will not allow that external force to change its shape and size, right? That is why we say these are rigid. And by incompressible we mean like gases, right? You can compress gases because their particles are far apart from one another. So when you apply pressure on it, the particles come close to one another in case of gases. But we say that solids are incompressible. Why? Because the particles in solids are closely packed, right, due to which the space between the constituent particles, which may be atoms, ions or molecules, is very less. Since the space is less, so they are incompressible, right? We say they are rigid, right, because particles, right, are fixed, right? The particles in solids are fixed in their position. They are incompressible because particles are closely packed, right? And we know that these particles are fixed in their position, they cannot move, right? They do not have any translation motion, they can only vibrate at their fixed position, right? So the particles in solids, particles can only vibrate at fixed positions, right? Now it has been observed that some solids, in addition to all these properties, rigidity, incompressibility, mechanical strength, they also have definite geometrical shapes, definite geometrical forms, right? So these solids that have definite geometrical forms or shapes were termed as crystalline solids, right? Whereas there are other solids that do not possess this, that do not possess a shape, a definite shape like those of crystals, right? So that means since they do not possess any geometrical form or geometrical shape, they are known as amorphous solids. So solids that have shape are crystalline solids. Solids that do not have any shape or geometrical forms are amorphous solids, right? So now we have divided solids into crystalline form, right, and amorphous form, right? Amorphous form. Crystalline form is when solids have, that means these solids have, they have definite geometric form, right, and these do not have definite geometric form, right? Now what could be the reason behind crystalline solids having definite geometrical forms, whereas amorphous solids do not have any definite geometric form, right? Now let's understand this. Example of crystalline solids are like sodium chloride, like crystals of urea, crystals of sugar, right? You can easily recognize crystalline solids by their shapes because they have definite shapes, so you can even recognize these crystalline solids by their shapes, right? Now if we talk about amorphous solids, they are plastics, right, glass, right? Quartz glass, right? All these are amorphous solids. These are examples, right? In fact, crystalline solids only can be regarded as solids in true sense, right? Whereas these amorphous solids are not solids in true sense. And the property of solids, that is rigidity and incompressibility, is also not to a very high extent in case of amorphous solids, right? They possess rigidity and incompressibility to a limited extent, after which they can be deformed, right, or can be compressed, right? So these amorphous solids, they possess rigidity and incompressibility to some extent, right? So we also call, since we said that only crystalline solids are true solids, right, because they possess these properties to a high extent, right? So we call these solids, amorphous solids, we also call them as supercooled liquids, right? We call these as supercooled liquids. And we will see in a moment that these amorphous solids resemble liquids in one form, in one property. We'll discuss that, right? Supercooled liquid is if you allow liquid to cool down, right? We have in the previous video lecture we studied about thermal energy and your force at interatomic, or the force of attraction that acts between the particles, right? So at low temperature this force between the particles is high, right, and the thermal energy is low, right? So the liquid may become a solid, right? The particles will come close to one another. So that is why we call these as supercooled liquids. An example is your glass, right? So you might have seen that in buildings that the glass, right, the glass in glass windows at the bottom, right, you will see that the glass windows are thick, right? At the window, if this is a window, say if this is a window, you will observe that at the edges or at the bottom the glass windows are thick. Why? Because glass is an amorphous solid and we said it's a supercooled liquid, right? And liquids have a tendency to flow under its own weight, right, under gravity. Since this is a glass window, so it has a tendency to flow under gravity, under its own weight. So that is why, since liquid can flow, it's a supercooled liquid, glass, so since it flows downwards, so it's thicker at the bottom, right? So this is it, some important points. Yes, now let's talk about the arrangement of particles in crystalline and amorphous solids, right? Now we know that we said that amorphous solids do not have definite geometric forms, whereas these crystalline solids have definite geometric forms, right, due to orderly arrangement of particles, and particles are also arranged in a definite geometric fashion, right? Let's take the example of sodium chloride, right? If you look at the particles of sodium chloride, in the crystal of sodium chloride, the sodium and chloride ions are arranged in a definite geometric fashion, right? Here we are just looking this structure in 2 dimensions, right? Sodium ions, chloride ions, sodium ions. So these are alternatively sodium and chloride ions, right? Here again sodium ion, right? Then you have here chloride ion, sodium ion, here again chloride ion, right? All these particles are arranged in a definite form, right? And the definite form is alternate sodium and chloride ions. It's not that these particles are arranged randomly and in a disordered way, the particles are arranged, sodium and chloride ions that make up a crystalline solid, sodium chloride, are arranged in a ordered way and in a definite geometric form, right? You can see this is arranged in a very geometric form, in a very good geometric form. So due to this well ordered arrangement of particles, right, these crystalline solids have definite geometric forms, right? And this ordered arrangement, right, of particles in solids extends in all the three dimensions, right, in case of crystalline solids, right, due to which these solids have the crystalline forms, right? And since they extend, this ordered arrangement of particle extend in all three directions, right, in long distances, right? That is, this particle arrangement is throughout the length of the crystal in all the three dimensions. So we call this orderly arrangement as long range order. We call it as long range order, right? And this orderly arrangement of particles is not seen in this long range order. To be precise, this long range order of particles is not seen in amorphous solids, right? Whereas the arrangement of particles in amorphous solid is in a disordered way, right? And only to a very short distance the particles in amorphous solids are arranged in a well ordered way, like that of crystalline solids, right? Since the particles in amorphous solids are arranged in orderly way only in short distances, only up to a short distance, right? Maybe if this is a glass, so it till this point they are orderly arranged. Now if you go further, then again they are misorderly arranged, they are orderly arranged, then again they are disorderly arranged, right? So after short distances, right, the particles are disorderly arranged, disorderly and randomly oriented, right, in case of amorphous solids, right, due to which amorphous solids do not have well defined geometric forms, because the ordered arrangement is only limited to a very short distance, right? So we say these have short range order, right, due to which they do not have definite geometric forms, right? So this property is important, right? Crystalline solids have long range order, right, and amorphous solids have short range order, right? Just take the example of crystalline solids, right, sodium chloride, and remember that these are supercooled liquids. Amorphous solids are supercooled liquids. That is why a glass window, right, is thicker at the bottom, because supercooled liquids have a tendency to flow under its own weight or under gravity, right? Now there is another important property of crystalline solids and amorphous solids. We talk about now melting point, right? Melting point. If you just talk about melting point is temperature at which solid changes into liquid, right? And in the previous video lecture we have already understood that the arrangement of particles in solids is different than in liquids. The arrangement of particles in liquids is different than in solids, right? And we have seen that in solids the particles have fixed positions. They do not move. They do not have any translation motion. Whereas in case of liquids, particles can move, right? The molecules in liquids, they can move. That is why liquids can flow. They are fluids, right? Whereas solids are not fluids. So when we say at melting point solid changes into liquid, let's see what kind of changes occur in the particles that make up a solid, right? Due to which it changes into liquid and will start flowing also, right? Since we said that if this is your solid, right, and it has fixed position, the particles in solids have fixed positions like this, right? So, and we know that the particles in solids can only vibrate about their positions, right? These particles can only vibrate at their positions, at their mean positions, right? So when you heat it, right, when you heat this solid in order to melt it, right, what happens is these particles will acquire heat energy, thermal energy, right? And we know that due to heat energy the vibrations will increase, right? Now at one point these vibrations will become so high that these particles will leave their position, right? The particles in these solids will leave their position at one particular temperature and will start flowing, right? Same as liquids, right? So the temperature at which these particles that form a solid, right, will vibrate to a very high, will vibrate to a very high extent that they leave their position and start moving and start flowing. That temperature is known as your melting point, because it abruptly changes into liquid at that particular temperature, right? So crystalline solids will undergo abrupt change, right, into liquids, whereas amorphous solids we will not see this abrupt change of solid becoming liquid in case of amorphous solids, right? So here we say in case of crystalline solids there is no abrupt change, right, of solid becoming a liquid, right? Whereas in case of amorphous solids there is no abrupt change of solid in when the solid becomes liquid, or when the amorphous solid will start flowing like a liquid, there is no abrupt change that at this particular temperature this amorphous solid will suddenly become liquid, right? Whereas in case of crystalline solids we see that this process will occur, whereas at one particular temperature these particles will start vibrating to a very high extent that they will leave their position and start moving. That is, at that temperature solid will become a liquid, right, and will start flowing like a liquid because the particles are now free to move. Due to this high temperature the particles have left their position and started moving, right? So we say these crystalline solids have sharp melting point, right? Sharp melting point is at that particular temperature there is an abrupt change of solid, from solid to a liquid there is a change of state, right? That is, there is an abrupt change, right, of solid becoming liquid. Whereas in case of amorphous solids there is no abrupt change, right? There is no abrupt change of solid becoming liquid, so they do not have no sharp melting point, right? So what happens is when you heat, let's see what will happen to an amorphous solid when you heat an amorphous solid, right? We said that there is no abrupt change. What we mean by abrupt change is when a solid changes into a liquid, right, suddenly or abruptly, and that particular temperature is known as melting point, and we know what happens at melting point. Whereas in case of amorphous solids, these solids will slowly over a range of temperature will become soft and will finally become liquid and start flowing, right? In case of amorphous solids, these are crystalline solids, right, and these are amorphous, right? So in case of amorphous solids, when you heat amorphous solids, they become, on heating amorphous solids, they become soft, right? Over a range of temperature these solids become soft and will become then liquids, right, and will start flowing, right? So there is no abrupt change here, right? Now there is another important property we call that property as isotropy and anisotropy, right? Isotropy is, if you look at the structure of this sodium chloride, right, you will see that if, okay, first let's talk about amorphous solids. In case of amorphous solids, right, if you have, since we said that in all directions, right, the orderly arrangement is very short, right? The orderly arrangement of particles is very short, right? So we say that in all directions, in case of amorphous solids, we have the particles are arranged in a disordered manner and randomly. The particles are arranged randomly and in disordered manner, right? Here, particles in all directions are arranged randomly and in disordered manner. Particles are arranged randomly and in disordered manner. Whereas if you talk about crystalline solid, suppose we have this crystalline solid that looks like this, right? If you look at this crystal, right, you will see that the particles are here. We said that particles in case of amorphous solids, since they do not have any specific any definite geometric shape or form, so why that happens? Because the particles in all directions are randomly oriented and disordered and arranged in a disordered way. Whereas in case of crystalline solids, you will see that these particles are arranged in a regular ordered way, right, in one particular direction, right? Here, if you look at this, in this direction, you will see that particles are arranged in a definite order. If you see in this particular direction, you will see that particles are arranged in a different manner, right? If you look at from this direction, the particles are arranged in a different manner. So arrangement of particle is different in different directions in case of crystalline solids, right? So this arrangement is different in different directions, right? So due to which, since this arrangement, right, of particles is different in different directions, due to this, the physical properties of solids like thermal conductivity, right, or heat conductivity, refractive index, right, the physical properties would be different in different directions. Whereas if you talk about amorphous solids, because the properties of solids is due to the arrangement of particles, right? And here we see that in different directions particles are arranged in a different way. Whereas in case of amorphous solids, we said that the particles in all directions are arranged randomly and in disordered way. That is, it's almost same in every direction. Particles are arranged in a disordered way, right? So here the properties would be same in all directions. Because of similar kind of arrangement of particles, the properties of solids would be, of amorphous solids would be same in all directions, right? So here properties would be same in all directions, right? And we call it as isotropy. And these amorphous solids, we call these solids as isotropic, right? And these crystalline solids that have different properties in different directions, they are known as anisotropy. This is known as anisotropy, right? And the solids, these solids are known as, crystalline solids are anisotropic, right? If you look at this crystal of sodium chloride, right, if you let's say if we measure a property in this direction, right, you see that in this direction you have chloride ions, right? So the property here, the arrangement of particles is different in this direction, right? Say this direction is A, B, right? And if you try to measure any physical property in this direction, this is your CD, right? In this CD, right, in direction CD, you have alternate sodium and chlorides ion arranged, right? So in this direction, you have alternate arrangement of sodium and chloride ions, so properties would be different. Whereas in this direction AB, you have chloride ions arranged, so properties would be different. This is what it means when we say that arrangement is different in different directions, right? Similarly, there is one more example of diffraction that we study in physics. If you have a crystal, you pass light through the crystal, and if you look from the other side, you will see that the light that is coming out of the crystal, if you observe that light, right, or measure that light in different directions, you will see that the speed of light is different in different directions. Why? Because the crystal has definite shape, right, and the particles are arranged in a different way in all directions. So light coming from different directions will have different speed, right? And this is known as your diffraction of light. When light passes through that crystal, it will divide into two, right? So light coming from different direction due to different arrangement of particles, the speed of light would be different, right? So this property is important, which comes under isotropy and anisotropy. And we say that amorphous solids are isotropic and your crystalline solids are anisotropic, right? Now there is another property. Okay, let's talk about one thing. If you take a crystalline solid and you cut it, right, you will get the cut piece, the piece that you get after it has a smooth surface, a definite the cut, it's a regular cut, right? Whereas if you cut or break this amorphous solid, if you cut it, right, then there is the piece that you have cut from this amorphous solid, it will have an irregular shape, right? So this is also one point of difference, right? The point of difference is that this comes under cleavage, right? When cut with a sharp edge tool, right? When you cut a crystalline solid with a sharp edged tool, crystalline solids give two pieces with plane surfaces, right? This is what it means, right? So when you cut a crystalline solid with a sharp tool, it will give you two pieces with plane surfaces, right? For example, this is the crystalline solid, and if you cut it with a sharp edge tool here, you will get a piece like this, right, with a plane surface, right? Whereas if you break, since we know that these amorphous solids do not have any regular shape, so if you break it, right, you will get an irregular piece, right, small piece. It doesn't have a regular surface, right? It has an irregular surface, right? And one thing we already know, the crystalline solids are rigid, right, and amorphous solids are rigid only to some extent, and these are true solids, right? Crystalline solids are true solids, whereas amorphous solids are pseudo solids or supercooled solids. They are not solids in true sense, right? Now we have something important which is known as interfacial angles, right? Interfacial angles. What is interfacial angle? If you look at this crystalline solid, it has different faces, right? It has different faces. If you break this crystal into smaller pieces, or you take the crystal of the same substance, right, in a different shape, the shape of crystal of the same substance, that looks different, right? What you notice is that the interfacial angle is the angle that is bound by two faces of the crystal, right? Suppose this is one face, this is another face, or this is one face, this is your interfacial angle. This is one face, this is another face, this is your interfacial angle. Similarly, this is your interfacial angle. So even if you break this a bigger crystal into smaller crystal, right? Or you take crystal of different shape